All right, everybody, this is the Man Therapy Podcast. My name is Dan. His name is Kyle. Kyle, summer's wrapping up, my friend.
That's right.
Dude, school starts in a week.
Yeah.
I blinked and summer didn't even happen, man.
It happened to me.
Yeah.
It happened to my family.
Yeah, so what, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's both. It was good. We've had a good summer overall, but there's that Christmas song that say, "Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again." Like, I think almost every parent that I've talked to in the past week or two has shared the same sentiment. Like, yeah, this is cool. We've had a great summer, and like, we are ready to send them back.
This sounds bad, but it's almost like when a guest at a party stays too long.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. Like, I've gotten to the age now where I'm just like, all right, see you guys later. Like, everybody's going to bed, right? I'm going to bed. So we'll see you later. Right. But, dude, I know exactly how you feel, man. I like the fighting. And I mentioned this before we started recording. Like, I have a story I want to share. Before this, and we'll get to that, and I think that's going to open up what we're going to talk about today. But I really do miss summer because I made it a priority to hang out with my kids as much as possible this summer, and at the detriment of my own business. And so I'm looking forward for them getting back to school so I can pick the business side of it back up full throttle, and then at the same time, like, have a little separation. I don't know if that's a good thing to say, but separation, what's they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, for my own sanity, I love hanging out with them all the time, but you can't do a big activity every day of the summer. Can't take them fishing or camping every day. You can't take them to the bowling alley every day. Just financially, you can't do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like you have a job too. And so, I don't know, man. It's
no, you're right on. That's the quandary of every parent. It's like the all of the neat things have lost their luster by the end of summer, and then they just like more and more and more go at each other's throats.
Yeah.
As the summer goes on, and you can't, they beg every day to have a friend over. They beg every day to go somewhere cool and expensive, and they're just always begging for things and try to get ahead of it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And it totally gives me a different perspective on and a new respect for what my parents went through.
100%.
Because I know I was exactly that way.
Yeah, but here's something cool that we've discovered. I hate to say this, but like our neighborhood, these kids run around in a pack. Like, I mean, just a giant pack of kids. Mm-hmm. And we aren't really taking, we take care of them, right? We make them come in and eat lunch, but at the same time, they're bouncing between our yard, the neighbor's yard, who also works from home. Down the street, their parents work from home. And so there's like 3 or 4 yards that the kids are in, and they're pretty much feral. They're not talking to they're not telling us what they're doing. They just walk. Some days I just hear the door slam, and then I won't see it open back up until lunchtime or even past lunchtime. And so,
sounds like a 90s childhood.
I know, right? And I kind of like that. It's like,
I agree with you.
You're getting street smart, which is part of life, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'd love to hear that. And it's funny. I've seen that pack of kids as I drive by your neighborhood.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they're not giving you the finger or spitting at you as you ride by.
Why, have you guys had issues with that?
No, but there is some times where boys, it's okay, right? So like in kickball, you can hear them arguing down the street when they play kickball or wiffle ball, and they're arguing, and that wasn't a strike. Yes, it was. Blah, blah. And then whatever team, it's not always one kid versus another kid. It's like this group of kids versus another group of kids because they're competitive, right?
Yeah.
And so they will argue, and then they'll sometimes take it past arguing. But then for boys, it stops once the game is over. Right. And they don't hold the grudge like my daughter and maybe her friends would. It's like, oh my God, this happened and she did this and she said this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, all right, well, you might just need to have a little time and a couple of deep breaths and that will go away. And then,
Yeah.
the boys will play with each other an hour after that happens. The girls will wait days to hang out with each other again. So that's a curve that I'm still learning on is how the girls operate with the boys. Like the boys will wrestle each other down. No, not really hit or fight, but they'll get physical with each other, but then they'll be best friends after it.
Yes.
And so the girls though, they're they
I know you're right. It's a different situation. I can't remember. Did you have sisters or no?
No sisters. No.
Me neither. So I don't have, like, you and I are similar in like just what the hell do they do with this and what's normal and how does this work and how do I support them? Yeah, because I noticed the same thing with my son and daughter.
Yeah. So long story short, it's they have been babysat by committee this year, where
just like the good old days.
Yeah, I mean, like I'll have kids. I told this one group of kids, I'm like, don't even knock when you come in my house anymore, because every time you knock or ring the doorbell, which is sometimes 5 times an hour, the dog goes crazy, right? The dog starts barking. Now, my wife, she has meetings throughout the day. She doesn't have an office like I have. And so when the kids are knocking at the door in her meetings, the dog goes crazy, which elevates her blood pressure. Right. And so I told them, I'm just like, nobody comes in this house before 9 o'clock. And if you do come in after 9, don't knock, just come in. Yeah. And I hope I don't regret that. Right?
Well, you'll remember you said it, so you'll be
exactly.
You'll be smart enough to be fully clothed once the day starts.
Exactly. And so, and I'm just, I'm what it is at that point, but I can't have that dog barking and I'm just like, come in. So then there's days where I cook lunch and I got a kid who's not mine sitting at the table. And I'm like, are you hungry? I guess I'm feeding you too. And I'll,
whoever's there.
Yeah, whoever's there. So put in a bag of nuggets and fries and warm up a microwavable vegetable bag and put it in basically big bowls and be like, all right, take what you want. And then family style eating at the Johnson house. So
I love it, dude. I love it. Good. That's a good summary, and good for you for dialing back on work so that you can enjoy your time with your kids in the summer. You will never regret that.
No.
You'll be on your deathbed like, yep, that was the right thing to do. That's super cool. Good for you.
That's a kind of a great point. The old deathbed conversation. Like, what are you going to be thinking about at the deathbed and on the deathbed? And I would find that interesting if somehow you could calculate. Did I ever tell you this story about my grandpa? Okay. So he had Parkinson's real bad, mixed with a little bit of Alzheimer's. Like he had dementia on his final day. My grandpa on my dad's side, and I wasn't there to witness it. I don't think I was close, but I don't think I was at the moment my grandma was. And there was a nurse there and I think my dad might have even been there as well. And so, as he's literally been incapable of speaking for the past several months, maybe even a year, because of everything that was going on with him. As he's passing, there was like, I guess, this moment of clarity where he looked at my grandma and said, like, I have always loved you. I have always loved you. Okay. Full voice, normal speaking voice, just this perfect moment of clarity. And then he passed. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like crazy. Right.
That's beautiful.
And so it just kind of opened my eyes to like, what are you truly thinking about? It was never like, in 1987, I made $250,000. Like, who's doing that? Like, who's doing that? Nobody, right? Yeah. And so it makes you think, like, people, they put so much value into certain things throughout the course of their life, and then they hit the end of it, and then they realize, like, it's a big awakening for them, whether it's weeks or maybe even years, where people are like, oh shit, I might have done this whole thing wrong. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
that would be curious to me if there was like maybe like how they have exit interviews at work where
Right.
after you get fired or you decide to quit, you do an exit interview. Hey, tell me about this. And so
Mhm.
you get your consciousness back and your perfect speaking voice and it's like, okay, let's have an exit interview before you leave this world.
Seriously, dude. That's a good idea for, like, a TV show or a movie,
Yeah.
the exit interview at the end of life. I do think, I actually do think that there is some research out there about people's, regrets at end of life, and, obviously we're not gonna be able to collect data from people who can't communicate, but, I think there actually is, like, that would just be fun
Yeah.
to look that up.
Yeah. Because at the end of your life, you don't want to be alone, really. You don't
Mhm,
want to be stuck in a spot that you don't want to be in.
mhm.
Um, like my grandma, she's 88 right now, 89. And I just stopped at her house yesterday and had a really good visit with her. It's just
Okay.
crazy. Like, I'm going to be real for a second,
Yeah,
okay? Like, my grandma is so old school. She is that type of person that if it is in the Bible, then it is truth. And that is how I live my life,
yeah,
okay? That kind of old school. And so there are different types of people in this world that she just does not understand nor cares to understand where they come from because the Bible says a different way,
yeah,
right?
right, right.
And so she's sitting there talking to me about these things and like, and I'm just like sitting there listening because I don't want to argue with my old grandma, right? And I'm
Right,
just like, yeah, I guess as long as they're not bothering me, I don't care too much or whatever the case is.
right.
So, anyway, what I'm getting at is Um, her conversations were never about possessions. Her conversation was not about possessions. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about it was just about people that she loved.
Hmm.
And it was so it just kind of so what are you really thinking about when you're 88 years old? Right?
Yep.
I need to have this land and I need to
Yeah.
own this house and I need to have this car. No one like at that age, dude, just everybody I've talked to that has been there has been like, man, I wish I spent more time doing what I loved to do, really.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think also, I think people on their deathbed say they wish they would have taken more risks,
Mhm.
that they felt like they played life too safe. And yeah, then the other one wishing they would have spent more time with the people they loved and
Yeah.
seeing all the money grabs as actually
Mhm.
subtracting from time with their families.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to balance that in my life. I know
Right.
a lot of people are, but I'm sitting here going like, "All right, do I really need to have my kids in X amount of sports? Do I need to have them in every single activity, or should I just let them be for a little bit?" Right? Um, I am under the
Yeah.
impression financially that you can't take it with you when you die. That's kind of my motto. Now, I also am kind of halfway frugal, I guess, on how money is spent throughout because you got to have money to live,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
don't want to live in a world where it's just you're nickel and diming everything. You never do anything. You go home and you're sitting and you're not spending any money at all because you have to live this. I have a plan for retirement. I just want to make sure that like, dude, in 20 years, when I'm 65, who knows if where my knees are going to be and
Right.
where I'm going to be walking and if I can climb a mountain and that. So I'm doing some of that shit now.
You
You know what
should.
I mean? And
I like
so
it. I
I
like
don't
it.
know, especially with the kids, right? I want to
Yep.
be able to experience some of this stuff with my kids because, dude, in 10 years, I'm not going to have a kid in the house.
Yeah.
So
Old. Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm totally with you.
I think about that stuff all the time.
Good. That's good. I think that's a good use of your thought energy.
Hmm.
That's good. I'm glad that you are.
Yeah.
Wish that more people would. My
Yeah.
my son chose not to play baseball this year, and it was an awesome summer
Yeah.
for that. We got to spend a ton of time together. I played with him one on one a ton outside. I imagine he probably will play baseball next year, but you know darn well how much time
Mhm.
baseball takes up. But
100%.
yeah, just one, and I wouldn't be surprised if he plays every year now until he graduates from high school. Who knows? But we did get this one summer of no baseball, and man, we just hung out a ton. Super fun.
That's one thing that I do. I don't know about you, and I think we may have talked about this, but I don't have a guys group. I don't have even a guy, another dude that I go and hang out with. I wish that I could, like, if you ask me, Dan, what would be your perfect day? Other than adding maybe a lovemaking session in with my wife, then I would just want to hang out with my family, like hang out with my kids, play catch. Like every time my sons ask me, Dad, can we play catch? I will play. I will stop what I'm doing and play catch with them,
Absolutely.
and even if it's just for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then my daughter, if she wants to go, hey, Dad, can we go on a golf cart ride? Yes, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
going. So those are two things that I stop what I'm doing to go do
You're doing it
with them.
right.
So
I love it. And that's
I,
true too for everybody watching. It's really it's a normal sight to see Dan cruising around the neighborhood with whether it's with one kid or a golf cart full of kids.
yeah,
It's very normal to see Dan out there. No other adults, just Dan cruising
with
with the
like,
kids.
well,
I
and
love
not just my kids,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
no.
I remember I had the neighbor girls on one day, and I think I had a total of 7 kids on my golf cart, and I took 7 kids to the park.
Yeah.
And this one girl that I'm on this committee with was walking her dog, and she's like, are these all of your kids? I'm like, hell no. No way, dude. No way they're not my kid. Like some of them don't even look like me, right? And I'm just like, nope, they're not.
Oh man.
I guess I'm the neighborhood babysitter certain times of the day or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I'm
dude.
not even that, just like
The
some dude
entertainer.
that, yeah, the entertainer.
Yeah, you're the one that like takes the weight off of the other parent's shoulders.
Other
Like,
parents, yeah.
oh, thank goodness, Dan took
Yeah.
them all to the park. I get
Yeah.
45 minutes of quiet. I can
To
pick up my
not do
house for
anything.
a second.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love that.
Yeah.
Other than that, any final thoughts about summer winding down and maybe what you're looking forward to this fall?
Hmm. Well, my son really likes school, so it's really fun to see them like grow in school. That
Mm-hmm.
is cool to see them be excited about the stuff that they're into. My daughter's really artistic, and so she's always like coming up with cool stuff with her friends at school and in art class, and she brings that stuff home all the time. So I do like that aspect of it. And then I guess like maybe what I'm looking forward to most about my kids going back to school is my wife being less stressed
Mm,
because that poor woman, she dials back work in the summers to spend time with them so that we don't have to pay for so much daycare. And whew, it's just it's not easy to entertain kids all day, every
yeah.
day, week after week after week. So just for my wife's sanity, I'm excited for school to start.
I want to elaborate on that because that's something that I have to deal with too. Unfortunately, my wife doesn't have the ability to wind back
Right,
her
right.
work. How do you, as a husband, deal with, how do I say this? There's stress that causes stress that then causes stress. Okay. And so if the kids are causing stress, then that causes my wife stress,
Yeah,
which then is directed towards me, and that causes me stress. And I think you and a lot of other men kind of feel that, which the kids causing the stress is something I can deal very well with, I feel. But
yeah,
then not only am I'm dealing with that, then that stress snowballs, and then the house is in a state of high stress. And,
yeah.
and so how do you communicate like with your partner, or how would you suggest communicating with your wife being like,
Right.
dude, you need to chill out. This is not worth the stress that you're making a mountain out of a molehill, so to speak.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't see this as like a put down to any, wives or whichever parent is like the primary kind of like stay at home that just has to take the brunt of the
Hmm.
force of the kids. You know what? Honestly, it's something that I basically ignore it or turn a blind eye to
Hmm.
my wife's stress. I don't try to straighten her out, so to speak. I try really hard to anticipate it, and like the second I get off work, I know she desperately wants me to come up and just get really engaged. So the
Hmm.
second I get off work, if I'm in my home office, I'll come upstairs and I'll instantly start playing with my son,
Hmm.
because he's usually the one that's like, when he gets bored, then he starts to pick on my daughter, then they start to fight, and then that gets really stressful for my wife. So I don't ask her for anything. I don't like, barely even ask how'd the day go. I basically already know. So when I get off work, I just come and I grab my son and we're doing whatever. If I
Hmm.
can get him outside, if I can play a game with him, if I can just, and then I try to tire him out. Like I try to do something physical with
Hmm.
him. If I do anything I can to separate the kids, I can like see it in my wife's face that she's frustrated and irritated, and I don't think that a lecture or encouragement from me is going to do anything but piss her off even more. And
Yeah.
so I just try to take I just try to take a kid, and it's usually my son. And that's how I've dealt with it all summer long. The more days in a row that my wife's just been like on an island with them, the more stressed she gets, and I get it. When things are calm, we can talk about like, oh, what would some fun things be to do? But I don't ever actually address her like attitude around it.
Yeah.
I think she's, to me, her like burnout is just a lack of resources. Like she's just burned through her patience, and I don't think that a lecture from me is going to give her more patience. So I just come up and try to like engage instantly. Or like if I working at my office in town, then when I get home, I just go straight to my son, grab him, and we're out of there. Because then that'll calm the tension, and then she appreciates that a lot. And then even if she's still in a negative mood the rest of the night, I actually don't even address it. I might just be like super nice to her, super might just walk up behind her and rub her shoulders. I'm trying to like take care of dinner so that she doesn't have to think about that. Yeah, just in my experience, like even though I might think like, geez, you're making this harder than it needs to be.
Hmm.
And I won't say that I've never like said anything about that to her,
Yeah.
but I think I've learned that it hasn't helped at all. So yeah, I think the
Hmm.
way that I handle it is just to like, as soon as I can, come in and get super active with the kids, take the stress off of her, start cleaning the stuff that I know stresses her out, just start making dinner, or just bring dinner home so she doesn't even have to think about it. So yeah, I'm seeing her as like a uh I don't know, like a firefighter that's been fighting a fire all day, that's stressed out, that when I get there I don't need to talk to them about how stressful it is to fight fires. I just need to start fighting the fire too.
Yeah. 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 Do you feel that there are certain types of people, maybe you've run in to this and maybe a client of yours, do you feel that there are people that make a big deal out of something small in order to get attention that they feel that they're not getting, and or using it as a crutch so that they themselves don't have to deal with it and they're putting that pressure on somebody else? Does that make sense?
Oh
Like they're
yeah, yeah,
passing it, they're
yeah.
trying to pass it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's people. I'm sure there's people out there like that. I think, in my experience, it's more like it's less that they're doing it on purpose to get out of something, and it's more that that's just like their worldview. That
Mhm.
they just kind of have a short fuse, and they have like a pretty shallow tank for patience, and they're kind of, some folks like this are kind of used to chaos, and they're used to being the victim, and so they just keep recreating that everywhere they
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
And they, maybe they grew up in chaos, or maybe that's like all they really know. So it's like, hey, we could like institute some like rules and structure around here, and like things would be like a lot easier. And then this person just cannot do that for whatever reason. It's just always structure. Or it's always chaos. They're always flying by the seat of their pants. They won't take any advice from anyone, and then
Mhm.
everything is just overwhelming. So they never get past like, if step one is like, or level one is like being overwhelmed, level two is like, put some thought into how we do this, and like make a couple decisions that'll make things easier. Step three is like, or phase three is like, you're really making some good routines, and you've got some good ways of conceptualizing things. Like some people never get down into the deeper levels of figuring life out. They just
Mhm.
stay in survival mode
Yeah.
at the top, and they're just always flying by the seat of their pants. They feel frantic. They feel like they're so stressed that they couldn't possibly do it any other way. But other people in their life are on the outside looking in like, dude, why are you running around like a chicken with your head cut off? Like it doesn't need to be like this, but the person just doesn't have a template for how to do it any differently.
How hard is that for someone to identify that, stop, and take a look inward? Is that something really hard for people to try to figure out?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's hard for people generally speaking to look at themselves from a different lens.
Yeah.
It's hard to differentiate yourself. So you can be enmeshed with your own thoughts and feelings, which means like you just it means you're tangled up with your thoughts and feelings. And there's a big difference between being enmeshed with your thoughts and feelings where you think you are your thoughts and feelings and being like a step removed from your thoughts and feelings where you're able to observe them.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have to practice observing their thoughts and feelings. So it's like instead of a person being like, life is horrible, everything's super stressful, you can start by practicing saying, I'm having the thought that life is really hard. I'm noticing my body getting stressed out under these circumstances. And you start to get curious about, well, when does this happen? How does this happen? What's the processes that make this stuff happen? It's almost like if you could see your life how you might see like an issue at work, then you could address it differently. So like if something was going wrong at work, you might sit and think to yourself, all right, this is an issue. Why is this happening? What am I doing to contribute to it? What could I do to make this better? But it's like in our personal lives, it's like we don't think to do that. Or
Yeah.
a lot of people don't think to do that. And it's like you could, because a lot of times people think in their personal lives things just are how they are and there's no changing it.
Yeah.
And so they don't take the personal responsibility to say, hey, wait a minute, it's not like this for everybody. Why is this going like this for me? What could I do differently? But yeah, I do
Yeah.
think it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I feel is, I think that's where there's a lot of bringing back a word you brought up is the chaos. Um, and it's hard for people to, they live when they live in chaos. Oh, here's the other word, the empathy word, right?
Uh-huh.
Empathy, right?
Uh-huh.
I feel like if people would take a step back and just for a brief second, try and view yourself through the eyes of another and say, oh, dude, maybe I am acting a little bit crazy, or maybe I am being an asshole, or maybe I am like, I try to do that. Um, I try to do that, almost try to on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
I have a story I'd like to share with you about that. Um,
Yeah.
and that's, so I had reached my boiling point with the kids the other day, and I started talking to them like they were grown men, and I lost it. My patience. I lost my cool. I was swearing. I was yelling. Um, I was what I don't want to say blaming them, but it really was. I think I was blaming them for how I was feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see in my youngest child's eyes a little bit of fear, like he
Yeah.
was afraid. Okay, there's two outcomes of this I want to discuss,
Okay.
um, and that's fear, and then actually being a good parent.
Yeah.
What I feel is a good parent, um, and that would be like I had to step. It happened, right? Volcano Dad happened,
Yeah.
and I was swearing and I was talking my shit, and I was just like, I told you seven, blah 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 blah. Do this, you don't do this, you're ungrateful, blah 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 blah. And just going.
Yeah.
And they were all sitting on the couch, and then they were just like paralyzed because they don't know how to conversate with me on that. They don't know how to walk me off that cliff. They don't know physically. Obviously, I'm way bigger than them, and they don't know what's going to happen. And so I left, right? I left in a state of fear of them in I don't know, at least my youngest son, my oldest son, I think he has just learned to ignore anybody that's talking to him.
Yeah.
sometimes. And my daughter was just like, Jesus, she's getting to the point where she can understand some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a step back. I went out into the garage to do something. And the feeling of my child being afraid of me crept into my mind. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're in that. Like, I was thinking about how he was looking at me when I was going through that fit of rage. And so I went over and I apologized to him. And I'm just like, hey guys, I am so sorry that that happened.
Mhm.
And I'm going to try to not do that again. I can't make any promises, but I'm going to try to not do that. And then I went into how important it is to do what I say, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I've
Yeah.
asked you to
Right.
pick up this room 4 times. There's wrappers all over it. Why are you not using the trash? There's this, like, dude, there's a turd in the toilet today. Why didn't you flush it? Why is the
Yeah.
sink dry? And it just snowballed to the point where I lost it. And then I had to go back and recover from it. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's where there's this breaking point here where I think it's okay at times to get that aggressive and get that. Like, I don't feel I lost any ground with the kids because after I came back and talked to them and that they chilled out a little bit. There was a break there, and then maybe they had time to think about it. Maybe they didn't. But I came back. I tried to get peace, and I think the breaking point there is what tells me, what my gut tells me that I'm doing good, that I'm being a good parent, is that after I talked with them, things got back to normal. They
Mhm.
were sitting on my lap. They wanted to play with me. They
Yeah.
were wanting my attention.
Yeah.
Like my daughter came over. She gave me a hug. And uh, even like my daughter and my youngest son were like, Dad, I love you, Dad. And then they said that because I say it to them,
Yeah.
and I think I rebounded, and because of that, then maybe they understood. But it sucks that there has to come a time sometimes with children where you have to kick the front door in, guns ablazing, say your piece, get their attention, and especially in today's world with like tablets and video games and YouTube, where their
Yeah.
mind is literally tranquilized on this
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
You have to get their attention somehow, and it's by
Right.
equal disruption. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I did
Right.
it wrong.
Well, to me, Dan, it sounds like a classic example of you're human
Hmm.
and no one's gonna do it perfectly all the time, and you're not gonna perfect game life.
Yeah, I like
It's
that. Yep.
I think it's very telling. I think you're right that it's very telling that you instantly felt guilt and remorse.
Hmm.
Because that I think that says I think your values show very clearly right there, like shit, that's not how I want to
Yeah.
be. And then whenever we do something wrong, because you're never going to be perfect, I'm never going to be perfect. We're going to do stuff like that. It's good that we feel bad about it when we do something like that. Excuse me. And then the next thing to do is the next right thing to do.
Hmm.
The next thing to do is just get right back in line with your values. And so yeah, so you lost it. It sounds like it's kind of a perfect storm or a culmination of
Hmm.
shit that built up and then you
Hmm.
lost it and then you caught yourself and you came back and you repaired. Cuz you could have not come back and repaired. You could have
Hmm.
just let them stew on it. You could have gone for a drive. You
Yeah.
could have left the house for 2 or 3 hours and then they would have all been sitting like, "Oh god, like what's this mean?" And
Hmm.
like, uh-oh, can we make dad so mad he'll leave? And
Hmm.
how's he going to be when he gets back? But you removed yourself from the situation, you calmed down, you came back in, you talked it through. You didn't cower like, "Oh, it's totally okay that you guys don't follow any directions ever and totally trash the house and never listen,
Hmm.
never pick it up." You didn't do that. You were like, "You know what? I was frustrated. I apologize for my emotional reaction. I don't like how I handled my frustration. You didn't deserve that. That was my fault and not yours. So I apologize."
Yeah.
And also, so that's that. There's no but there. I take full
Yeah.
responsibility for that. Okay. Also, let's get back to talking about the stuff that can't continue. And they rebounded so quickly because you already had so much currency in the bank
Yep.
emotionally with them. They
Mhm.
already felt close to you. They already felt connected to you. They already felt loved by you. So they were able to weather that storm,
Yeah.
so to speak. Because if you
Yeah.
didn't have that emotional currency in the bank account already, they wouldn't have received you back so quickly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the point where I think the reception back after I laid it down was more when they accept you back like that, then you're like, "Okay, it's okay that I made this mistake. I I put in the time, the effort, the energy the correct way
Yeah,
majority of the time,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
like and I tried, like I'm trying to get through, th- that told me, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah,
I've been doing the right thing. So
I think so, man. Yeah. Also, you're really never going to be perfect, and
yeah,
sometimes we find where the line is by crossing it.
yeah,
And sometimes, dude, this is your first time of parenting a kid at each of those ages and stages
hmm
and whatnot. Like you're living all this life for the first time as well. You're not, this isn't your third batch of kids that you've raised.
hmm
And so dude, I think it's just actually really honest and raw to be able to sit here and express and admit out loud that, like, shit, there's parts of me that surprise me.
yeah,
Man, I can
yeah,
I can try really hard to be a good father all of the time and still every once in a while have like a thing like this come up that just really surprises me and caught me off guard about myself. Like, yeah, that's right. Keep learning about yourself. That's good. And it's really real because I think, like, if you talk to, like, any dad out there and they were really, really, really honest, like, as honest as you're being right now, they'd be like, "Yeah, me too."
yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. Um, okay.
Thanks for
So
sharing that. Hey, just real quick, thanks for sharing that because
yeah,
it's hard, like, I really respect when people share stuff that isn't flattering, you know?
yeah.
Because that's
Oh,
real. That's what we need to hear that shit.
yeah. Like, hey, you want to know how good of a dad I am?
Yeah,
Here's three things that I did really well this week.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
I fail every day? I fail
Yeah,
every day at being a dad, but
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
not. I'm above 50%
It's
at being the good dad. So
No, me
as of right
too,
now,
me
anyway.
too. But
So
at least you're in there, at
yeah,
least you're in there. You're in the trenches, you're doing it.
yep, yep. I do know some people that their parenting is just from a distance, or they're not involved, and and then it's weird to see the distance between the kids, like, let's just say, for example, a dad who n is not as involved in their kid's life, maybe because he's working or he's trying to support or he's just decided not to be there. You see how those kids react when their dads tell them to do something.
Yeah.
It's like they have no respect for their dad, and I've seen that, and I'm just like, "Dude," or I don't know. The dad tells a kid to do something, they're like, "Who are you?" Like, "No," like, "Mom," and then they go run to mom or something like that, or
Oh, yeah.
some
You can
you
see
know,
it. Oh,
you can see it.
it hurts my heart when I see a dad that doesn't have connection with their kids,
Right,
you know?
right.
Like,
Yeah,
when the kids aren't coming up and crawling on the kid's lap and the kids
yeah,
aren't taking the food out of his hand,
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like, it's sad to me.
Mhm. The other thing, I wanted to discuss a little bit today, and, it's just like is this communication thing, all right? And
Mhm.
we can talk into, like a friendship, or we can talk it to a family relationship, mother daughter, father son, brothers, and we
Yeah.
can even talk about it at a spouse level, husband wife.
Mhm.
Um, and that is this thought that I want to see something from you, or
Mhm.
I want this from you, right? Like, in order to, you know, maybe you agree, and I know we've talked about this before, and that would be this idea of everybody putting in 50-50, and that just doesn't happen in certain relationships, right? 50-50.
Right.
But if somebody is needing something from another person, the number one goal is to try to communicate that to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Kyle, man, I need you to commit more to whatever it is in our friendship that you're doing. And I talk to you about it, and you're like, okay, yeah, dude, I get it, whatever. But then it doesn't happen. All right. So, how do we tell somebody there is something about this relationship that is truly important to me, and it is now to the point where it is on a teeter totter? And I'm getting to the point with certain relationships, or a person is getting to a point in a relationship where I'm not getting what I want and I value extremely important in this relationship. I can't get it from anybody else, or I can get it from, and maybe I can get it from somebody else, but I want that connection with you. I'm not
Yeah.
getting it from you. And now we've had these conversations over and over and over. How do we know what the next step is there?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a really complicated question with a really complicated answer. And I won't pretend to like have the answer for that
Right.
question. Um, I think it depends on a lot of factors and variables. Like part of my mind goes to like what's the sentiment of the person that you're not getting the thing from? Like, are
Mhm.
they maliciously withholding whatever the thing is?
Mhm.
Or do they not have the capacity? Like, are you wanting something from this person that they wish they could give, but they don't have the capacity to give it? And
Right.
so then you're both frustrated about it. Because
Yeah.
to me, those are two very different
Yeah.
paths forward. So to me, if the person, if it's a friend or a family member that I need something from, and they totally could, and they're just like, you know, they're being shitty and they're being malicious and this, so they won't like support me in the way that I need to be supported, then I could see distance being appropriate. But if the person, if I in my heart of hearts know that this person is at their max capacity and they just don't even have it to give, even though I desperately need it, I think I rely more on like, all right, what are my super overarching broadest life values here that I can apply to this situation? And can I just keep this person in my life just because they are valuable and I need things to they provide enough value to me and to the structure of my life that it's better to keep them around even though they can't provide what I need. Like, is this a moment where I need to suck it up, have broader shoulders and say, "Okay, I guess this is just a thing that I have to endure
Mhm.
because I don't think that person can give me what I want or need." um, yeah, that's a big way about how I think about that.
What do
Is
you
the
think?
person withholding it on purpose, or they just can't give it?
Yeah. What do you think the difference there is? Like, this has never been the person ever, and let's say, Kyle, I go, dude, let's go to this pottery class. Dude, I don't know why that popped into my head,
Yeah. Okay,
but I'm
yeah,
like,
fair.
Kyle, let's go to this pottery class. Pottery, let's do pottery. I want to do pottery. And you're like, dude, fuck pottery. I don't want to do pottery. But for some reason, I'm like, I want to do pottery. And maybe it's two things here. You truly don't like pottery, or I have this unrealistic expectation of you because of what I've seen maybe through social media, and now you take that any direction that you want. Like,
Yeah.
here's how this person should be treating you. Somebody else is telling me this is how this person should be treating you, but that person has never actually treated you that way ever before, or has done these
Yeah.
things for you ever before, but now you want them because you're seeing other people have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
I
like
think
it's
that's a
two
oh,
sides of
yeah.
the coin there.
Yeah, I think that's a good, you're already, like, leaning into a good insight, which is like, "Hey, what's this really mean to you?" To ask the other person, like, "What," like, I've never been a pottery guy, so I know this isn't about pottery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does this activity really mean to you? What would it mean to you if I said yes to this? What's
Yeah.
the feeling that you're trying to get? What's the feeling that you are trying to get from me? how do you want to feel yourself? How do you want me to feel? What would it mean to you if I said yes to this? What's it mean to you if I say no to this? Like, what's the need you're trying to fill in yourself? And that might point to like what the real need is. And then you might go like, yeah, fine. Like I'll go, tell you what, I'll go to pottery class and I'll do my best to enjoy it
Hmm.
too. Or it might come down to like, oh, hey, kind of sounds like you're kind of cherry picking like the best things from everybody's social media platforms. And you know what? We can't do all that, but we have a lot of really good things that we do, and maybe
Yeah.
try to identify like what's good about us, and what are our cool things that we have together, and what are the things that brought us together to begin with, and what are the things that we connected to begin with. Like I know X, Y, and Z about you, you know A, B, and C about me. Um, and you could also say like if there's a new direction that we want to grow in, like yeah, we're never too old to do that. But let's not put too much pressure on any one thing being the be all end all, or like if I don't want to do pottery, it means I don't love you, or you
Yeah.
know, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But I would wonder what the underlying need really is, and what's the feeling they're trying to capture, and what
Hmm.
would it symbolize to that person if I did the thing that they wanted me to do.
Yeah. Okay. Now, here is a hot topic. All right.
Mhm.
Especially around men our age. And I don't want to, I don't know how to address this, but it's something that I feel like we've beat around the bush on several episodes. All right.
Mhm.
But it is hugely important for men, and that's sex.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, and I've been thinking about how do you have this conversation, knowing that there is someone on the other side of this who I extremely respect and I love, and how you have that conversation with them. But when you even in when I am around guys that are my age, and you start just it's locker room talk, let's just
Yeah.
say, and you start hearing, oh, my wife doesn't want to do this, and she doesn't, like this and that, it's that banter, right?
Yeah.
When Do you run into clients that are at their wits' end with their partner because there is this huge lack of intimacy in their relationship, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, man, it is not the same as it used to be. How
Mhm.
do I how do I understand that a woman is potentially changing with her age and the stress and all of that
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
And how do I then balance that and understand where I'm still a guy who has maybe not changed and I
Yeah.
still love my wife the same? How do I still get that, because that's physical. Being physical is extremely important to a man,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so how, that's something that every man is probably trying to work out at some point in their life, unless
Mhm.
you're a billionaire who just can cycle through women all the time, but you're
Right.
losing that. You don't have that connection with someone. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, how
Right.
do you how do you fix that? How do you address that? Like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, right. I mean, we'll definitely talk about this. The thought had crossed my mind, like this could be a good topic to like bring in a guest to our podcast about, like someone that specializes in this sort of thing. I think a lot of people would really like to listen to that episode.
What are
Um,
you thinking? Like a sex therapist, or
yeah,
like a
oh, yeah,
or a woman?
a family therapist, like
Okay.
yeah, a marriage and family therapist, maybe even somebody that has special um, training and education in sex.
Hmm.
Yeah, because to me that the problem is like multifaceted.
Yeah.
That you haven't changed, but she has. It used to be an awesome thing that you shared together. Now I'm just speaking in general terms. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about your wife. I actually don't know
Right.
anything about your guys' specific stuff. We're just talking about, that this is a general topic for men. You haven't changed. She has. It used to be something that was like awesome and a super fun connection and for both of you. And then at some point it like felt like she just flipped a switch on her end, and it's like just that just doesn't happen
Hmm.
anymore, and she doesn't think about that anymore and doesn't want that anymore, but you haven't changed and you still do. And it's not even just about sex, it's about the connection.
Hmm.
And like that's like one of the most special things about the relationship between you and your partner. Like what differentiates your spouse from like your closest friend? Well, there's a lot of overlaps between a spouse and a close friend, but that's one thing that you share with your spouse that you don't share with anyone else on the planet.
Right.
Also, masturbation is hollow, empty
Mhm.
and hollow. It's a means to an end, but it's a means to an end only from a physical standpoint and not from an emotional or connection standpoint.
And that's
And
why
I
pornography can be so dangerous from an addiction standpoint.
oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. I think I wonder if women don't realize the impact of the emotional connection for men,
Right.
that women think it's just about sex and just about the act, and they don't understand that, like, that act is actually, like, really reinforcing to the bond
Mhm.
between husband and wife, and that, that the man feels like he can endure any amount of stress if he has that connection,
Mhm.
with his wife, and he feels how important it is for a man to feel like wanted and appreciated, and not have sex be like just a one-way, empty, transactional
Yeah.
situation. I think, as much as women like to say that like men don't get it, I think there's a chance that it's equally true that women don't get it either.
No.
Don't understand that, like, shit, I'm not just talking about sex here. I'm talking
Well,
about
that's
my
the
connection with you.
yeah, I mean, that's where the difference in physical, hormonal, psychological, physiological, like
Right,
whatever that big
right.
word is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The differences between men and women are so great. It's almost like, why are we even, other than to recreate children, make, like reproduce, what are we together for at times? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so now we're taking all of these natural instincts and bonds and hormones and stuff. And at times it seems like fighting against all of that to stay together in a household with that. And like the word culture, right? So like
Yeah,
getting married and having a family and raising a family and going through this and all of that stuff is a huge, like,
yeah.
it's a it's almost like at times it seems like that you're fighting against each uh
Oh, yeah.
nature. I don't know what.
Oh, yeah. 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 Again, I don't pretend like this is an area of expertise for me in counseling, but I've always liked the approach of talking to your spouse about it very calmly,
Mhm.
non-judgmentally, not accusing them. I think a lot of women report feeling like guilty and accused
Mhm.
and almost like attacked, like
Yeah.
they feel not good enough if their husbands say like, "Hey, we're not doing it often enough," or "It's not fun enough," or "I don't feel wanted." The women will go into their guilt and shame, parts of themselves. Not everyone, but I think a lot of them do. I think it's really important for the man to be able to explain the emotional aspect of it and explain that it's
Mhm.
not just physical. I think it's important to see, like, I don't want 2 partners to see this as like a battle between them, but more like a knot that they need to figure out how to untie together. So, like, approaching with a lot of curiosity, like, "Hey, like, help me understand your perspective and experience. Like, this used to be like, we used to have a lot of fun, didn't we?" "Yeah."
Mhm.
"And that was
Yeah.
awesome, and we used to feel really connected in that way, right?" "You right." "Okay, well, like, help me understand, like, what changed for you? And why, how come it's not a thing for you anymore?" And they might reveal, like, "It literally doesn't cross my mind," or, "Yeah, that would be cool, but I can't enjoy it, um, when I have a million other things on my mind, and I always have a million other things on my mind, so I'm never ready for sex." And that, it could reveal some information that could be useful to have. I've also always liked the question, like, under what circumstances do you think you might be interested in that? Or, like, even if
Yeah.
just use your imagination, under what circumstances do you think that this could even be a thing that you'd be interested in?
Yeah. All
Or
right,
or is
hold
there
that thought. Hold that
Okay,
thought. You
okay,
ask that to me. Let's pretend I'm your wife for a second.
alright.
Um and my response to you is, you're being weird. Why are you talking about this?
Oh. Yeah.
Or
I'd say, oh yeah,
because
I'd say,
I feel like you get into a marriage, guys are Neanderthalish in a way where it's like sex, sex, butt, boobs, right? And then something changes, and now you have a guy who has gone from that stage. Maybe they listen to this and they say, "Okay, I'm going to try to have a conversation about this to my wife," and
yeah,
it takes the wife so off guard that they're like, "What is wrong? You're being weird right
yeah,
now." Like, because there's two ways. Now you're weird, or now you're, oh, all you think about is sex, right?
yeah,
So now you have those two discrepancies that you're trying to, because, dudes like sex, right? Dudes
yeah,
like sex.
yeah,
And yes, there is the Neanderthalish aspect of it where, dude, I want to just go have sex. I want it, right? And then there is that bonding and connection that happens when
mhm,
sex happens.
mhm,
But how do you approach somebody who you've been kind of away your whole life,
yeah,
and now you're trying to turn into, how do I communicate with a woman who I've never really had to take this trip before,
yeah.
have this conversation before? It
Yeah,
seems like it could get
that's an awesome
awkward.
question. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that question. And I won't pretend to have the definitive answer, but I'm just gonna
Yeah.
think out loud with you. If you think that your wife might be like caught off guard, you could address that right away. You could give a little preface like, "Hey, can we talk about something that's like a little sensitive, or like, I have something I want to talk to you about. It's not a bad thing, and I don't want you to feel too off guard.
Yeah.
Um, would you be willing to like hang in there with me to talk about something?"
Yeah.
you know? Um, and if you set it up like that, then she might be more willing to engage rather than just springing it on her. Um, but yeah, I think, if you bring it up and she's like, "Oh, you're being weird. Why are you being weird?" I might respond like, "Yeah, I hear you, and I could see why this would feel like a weird thing. Um, I want to have the type of marriage where we can talk about anything. And yeah, this is a thing that we haven't really this is a path we haven't gone down before,
Hmm.
and I want to feel like I can talk to you about anything, and I want you to feel like you can talk to me about anything. So, can we figure out how to hang in there together? If
Yeah.
this is uncharted territory, like, let's be in this together. Let's try to be as gracious as we can to each other. Let's see this as a knot for us to unravel together rather than like a, a grievance I'm bringing to you.
Yeah.
It's like, and you can say like, I want this to be an equal relationship. And what I mean by that is I want you to feel like you can bring any thoughts or concerns you ever have to me.
Hmm.
And I want to feel like I can do the same with you. And
Yeah.
so in that way, I am right now I'm asking for your engagement, and I'm asking for your grace, and I just want to have a good I want to try to have a good conversation with my spouse about this.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and if done right, if done right, I don't know like how to like say this, but if
Uh,
done right, being physical with each other feels good for both people, right?
right, it should.
And
That's,
it
like, the only way
Yeah,
it should happen, right?
exactly, right? So it's like, I know the outcome. If you're able to let down your wall for just a little bit, you will have a good feeling, physical feeling, which
Right.
typically, which typically, I'm just going to say the orgasm word.
Mhm.
Once a man has an orgasm, he feels good after that.
Yeah.
Once a
Right.
woman has an orgasm, I'm guessing she feels good, and there's dopamine in the blood, and you have this
Mhm.
better day. It's almost like a drug in a
Yeah.
way. But
Right.
it's a natural thing. Like, I don't want to get into like an addiction state where you need it to be happy.
Right.
But at the same
Right.
time, it's just like, if done right, the connection can result in higher energy, positive attitudes. It can just lead down a path of good things for
Yeah.
everybody, and that then
Oh, yeah.
snowballs to the rest of the day. So
Yeah. I hear you. I think, and again, I'm not speaking from expertise here, but, I'm curious in, like, the biological and psychological aspects of it that, there's it stands to reason that a man wouldn't change and would just like
Hmm.
always be virile and want that connection, and like maybe once a woman's had all the children that she's gonna have, I could see like in our
Hmm.
millions of years of development that her sex drive might turn off.
Yeah.
Like there's a to me, and again I'm just
From a
like
natural standpoint, like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
done. I'm done with kids.
yeah.
You're done with kids. I'm done with kids. We don't need it anymore.
Yeah, but a
Got it.
man yeah, but a man, it doesn't ever have to be done with kids because you could be 70 and father kids.
Right.
So why would your sex drive ever turn off?
Right.
A woman, when she's like, starts perimenopause or starts menopause, it's like she's not gonna be having kids, and so why like, biologically, there's no need for a sex drive for her,
Yeah.
um, you know? So, I don't know, again, I'm just thinking out loud, these are just my thoughts, this isn't coming
Yeah.
from expertise, but also a thing that I've heard people talk about is a difference in the starting point for men and women. And what I mean by that is that men tend to use sex as a stress reliever.
Hmm.
And that it's an awesome thing to do when we're stressed. And women actually need to not feel stressed in order to
Right.
let those feelings come out.
Right.
And well, dude, you know what life's like on a daily basis. How
Hmm.
often would you say you feel no stress?
Yeah. Right.
Never.
Right.
Practically never, it's a very rare thing. So, like, if a precondition to a woman needing or, being able to have sex is that she needs to not have a lot on her mind, she needs to not have a laundry list of things to do, she needs to not have people, like, wanting and needing things from her. She needs to feel like the house is picked up and the laundry is done and the da da. That stuff's never done. But she needs all that to like be like, okay, now I can. Since those thoughts are subsided, these other thoughts can come up. But if
Right.
those thoughts never subside, then those other thoughts can't ever come up. And then the man's going like, "Come on, this would be so good," and she's going like, "I hear you, but I just can't even. Like, I need these. I need these thoughts to leave the room so that these thoughts can come in." And the problem is, these thoughts never leave the room.
Right.
So then
Right.
you're trying, so there's just a big miss
Yeah.
and it's a freaking tragic
Yeah. And I
design
think,
flaw.
I've been doing a little internet reading on some of this
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
And, just because it's like I'm at that age, my wife's
Yeah.
at that age,
Yeah, you should educate
all
yourself.
my friends are
Yeah.
at that age, and
Yeah.
so you run into this, um, you kind of run into those scenarios where everything we have discussed um, just kind of came up, and like you're I just feel like what happens is, especially for men, especially if men are not empathetic, right? Because
Mhm.
most men, I would say, if there's going to be a trait that men probably lack, it's empathy. In certain, I'm going based off of the law of averages here.
'Kay.
Um, you take that, and then a man could seriously feel like rejected.
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
he could feel rejected. He could feel like unwanted. And then it's just like, then what happens from what I've read is the negative thoughts then creep into his head. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not wanted. I'm not attractive.
Yes.
Like I'm fat. She doesn't want me
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like what is happening? And
Yeah.
then that spirals into other things as well.
Yep.
And so I feel like if you add empathy to that recipe, then you can just, instead of starting to have those negative thoughts creep into your head about yourself, you can
Yeah,
go,
I'm good.
all right, dude, she's going through something. All right.
Exactly.
Let's be empathetic here. But at times empathy doesn't change the outcome. Do you know
That's
what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it becomes this whirlwind of thoughts and emotions that we as men have to try to navigate in order to, I don't know, get what we want.
Yeah.
And
That
sometimes that could be a
absolutely.
struggle. Yeah.
I fully agree with you. Um, I think, all of those things you just said, I think those would be, if you were to have a level-headed, heart-to-heart conversation with your spouse of like, these are the fears that pop into my head. Like, am I attractive anymore? Am I unwantable? Am I, I don't feel wanted. I feel rejected. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Like, you could even ask like, why should I not feel rejected?
Hmm.
and then your spouse might say, I want to want you, and I'm even confused why I don't have a sex drive anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
That makes sense.
you
Yeah.
would have to have the I don't even know what word to use. You would have to have the either maturity or ego strength to really hear those words and say, okay, I'm going to take you at your word.
Yeah.
You tell me that I am attractive. You tell me that you do want me, or you wish you wanted me. So it's nothing. It's You're telling me that it's not a negative thing about me. Like, I'm gonna choose to believe you so that I
Hmm.
don't spiral and feel like shit about myself. And then, dude, I think, and this is me being, I'm only 42. I've been married for 10 years. My kids are 9 and 7, and so I haven't like lived through it all, but I do have this sense of like, man, I think there's going to be some storms that we just have to weather
Yeah.
in our marriages and
Yeah.
and in our lives. And I think there's like, have I ever showed you the happiness curve, or have we ever
Yeah. We
talked?
talked about that. We talked
Yeah,
about
dude.
that.
I
Yep.
think like I think about that pretty often of like, dude, yeah, things are really rough right now, but
In their
you made
40s.
a
Yeah.
yeah, but you made a fucking pledge to that person.
Yeah.
I'm not preaching at you right now. I'm just thinking out loud. You made a pledge to that person, and yeah, things are rough right now, and yeah, it's really frustrating, absolutely. But man, I think sometimes it's like, dude, you knew that marriage was going to be hard sometimes, and this is what hard feels like.
Yeah.
And so I've conceptualized with things in my marriage of like, and family, and raising kids and stuff of like, yeah, this is just going to be part of my story. And I actually don't
Hmm.
know how, like, I guess I will be willing to shoulder this for years.
Yeah.
And even if there's like something important that I'm not getting, everything else is important enough for me to stick around for, because leaving just isn't even an option for me, unless there's like some, like, I mean, there could be a few like, eh, uh, reasons why a person like might
Adultery
be right for a
or,
person to leave. But I'll tell you one thing right
yeah.
now, like, my wife is such a good person that like none of those reasons will ever come into play.
Yeah.
My wife's never going to be doing meth around my kids. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Well, I would distance myself and my kids from her if she were doing meth around them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but like if we're like going through some season of life, even if the season of life lasts a number of years, but
Hmm.
we're going through some season of life that's really difficult, like, I'm not leaving. Like, I need to see how all this plays out. And
Yeah.
there's something, sometimes I just have to take a deep breath and be like, well, let's see what you're made of, Kyle.
I like that approach, man, because what that's going to do is it's going to show your children, like, what did you do when times got tough? Did you
Yeah.
split? Did you
Right.
leave? Did you go do
Right.
something stupid? Or
Right.
did you walk the fucking walk?
Yeah.
Right. And
I agree.
I think that's so underestimated.
I
Right.
totally agree. And you know what else? Taking it one step further, even, is like, go be a good fucking husband to your wife, even though she doesn't have that to give you right now.
Right.
You know? Like, go love on her. Go hug
Hmm.
her. Go kiss her. Go take a chore out of her hands, Just be like, "Fuck, we're in this together."
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah.
life is so stressful.
Yeah.
Working and paying bills and keeping up with the house and raising these awesome kids that also don't give two shits if any room is picked up, and will literally just let a turd float in the toilet all
Yeah.
day. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's cool. Company's coming over and you just dropped a big deuce and just left it there." It's
And
like,
and if you could, if there is time, maybe let me hit. Right.
yeah,
No
right?
disrespect. No
No, I
disrespect.
know. No, I hear you, but yeah, it's like, I really think that sometimes if you think that your partner is a quality person, generally speaking,
Yeah.
and you don't think they're being malicious and withholding, then I think it's fucking time to see what you're made of
Hmm.
and put your money
Yep.
where your mouth is when it comes to your marital vows. And
Yep.
and and yeah, you might have a dry spell, and or a drier spell, and it might last for years, and I don't know, but And I'm not saying like there's probably good information out there about how to address all of this better. I'm just thinking out loud about how I conceptualize this stuff. But I don't know, time to be a man. And if you think you chose a good woman and she's doing the best she can, she's just also struggling, then stick with her. And maybe even pour more into her, because that's another thing that I think is pretty common for men to do, is like we pull away too then. Well, fine, then I'm gonna give you the cold shoulder a little bit more, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a little less kind to you. And I'm like, yeah, I would be nicer to you if we were able to do that, but we're not. And so, you know,
Yeah.
I've seen like I admit that I think it's funny. I've seen funny reels or videos or whatever online where it's like, oh, like the difference between a guy and his partner, like the day after, if they had sex or not. And like if they had sex and the guy comes up and he's all like lovey and huggy and hugs her from behind and all
Mhm.
that, and if they didn't have sex, she goes for a hug and he like, daps her up, and he's like, yeah, cool, hey, have your best day, get your grind on.
Yeah.
It's like he treated her differently because they didn't do that. And yeah, it's funny. And uh, also, I think, like, what if we went the other way and we tried really hard to just, like, pour into our spouse, because, like, life's really hard for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of good thoughts there, man. A lot of good thoughts. And I think what's the moral of the story? Life's not easy, dude. And that's on all aspects.
Mhm.
Whether it's the most intimate moments or it's moments that are not intimate at all.
Oh.
Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Uh Marriage is hard. Being a father is hard.
Mhm.
Being a
Mhm.
brother or a son can sometimes be hard.
Yeah.
Can sometimes be hard.
Yeah.
I have a really good relationship with my brother that
Yeah.
I just feel like I wish were next door neighbors.
Oh, me
But
too. Yeah,
yeah,
my brothers are awesome.
yeah. And
Luckily.
so, yeah,
Luckily.
yeah, right,
I know that's a gift, because I know it's not the case for everybody.
right. And so, outside of that, man, just I think if we can add a little bit of empathy into our lives and we can
Mhm.
add a little bit more patience into our lives, I think we're heading one step in the right direction. And
Absolutely. And I just wanna, like, reaffirm something that you said earlier, basically about, like, the the likelihood of a guy, like, started to take things personally and then feeling down about himself, and pulling away. And instead of doing that, to go to the wife, and or go to the partner, whichever, because sometimes it goes the other way too, but to go to
right.
your partner and basically ask, like, hey, does, like, I'm afraid that this means this.
Hmm.
Does it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm afraid that you don't want me anymore. I'm afraid that I'm undesirable. I'm afraid that I'm unattractive. Like, have I lost it? Have I let myself go? Like, what is it? And then the trick there then again would be to have the ego strength to accept whatever she says, and not just like spin off into your own imagination.
That
Don't
resentment.
be Just be
Yeah.
really careful about jumping to worst case scenario, and be careful about using what we call emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoning is when you have a feeling and you use that feeling as evidence that you're correct. So it's like,
Mm,
if I'm offended, then I assume that you meant to offend me. And you might be like, "Whoa, like no, you took that totally wrong." And I'm like, "No, I'm offended. So you're an
yeah.
asshole." You might
Yeah.
not be an asshole. I might have taken it wrong, but I'm using my emotions as evidence. So like
Hmm.
if you're feeling unwanted, that doesn't mean that you're unwanted.
Right. Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's tricky
It's
because
very tricky.
the old saying, sometimes our emotions get the best of us and they cause us to do things like yell at our kids or
Yeah.
make outlandish statements to our wife or
Yeah.
whatever the
Yeah.
case is. And
Yeah.
so it is it is difficult. Like,
I agree.
dude, life's
Yeah.
hard, dude. I don't know what else to say. Life's hard. And sometimes and I think you were getting to it. I have this saying, and sometimes I say it to my kids. I'm like, shit sandwich or poop sandwich. Sometimes you just have to eat it with a smile on your face,
That's
right?
right.
And
Yeah.
because there's nothing to do except that. And there's times I feel like if you just eat that shit sandwich and you're done with it, you wash your hands, wipe your face off, the next meal is going to be that much more glorious. right? The next
Yeah.
day is going to be
Yeah.
that much more glorious. The next moment of your life, you're like, okay, well, I ate a shit sandwich. But at the same time, if you're eating shit sandwiches all the time, you're going to have a problem,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, I don't know, moderation of shit sandwiches, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so that triggered another idea in me, which is to spend more time and effort noticing the good things and
Yeah.
the good contributions, because I think it gets really easy to get tunnel visioned and honed in on the one thing that's really eating at us. And like, to a husband who is frustrated with his wife because their intimacy has gone to practically zero, that can be really, 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 really frustrating, and that
Mm-hmm.
can be consuming. I would say that there's a good chance that that guy has also probably lost sight of the good things,
Mm-hmm.
and I would encourage him to remind himself of, like, okay, fair enough. Like, I'm not even going to try and take that away from you. I'm not going to try and argue that that's not an issue. Okay, so fair. You get to have that. Also, what's good about your wife, and what's good about your life, and what's good about
Mm-hmm.
your kids, what's good about your family, what's good about all of these things, because I think that's really important perspective that we just totally cancel out when we get
Right.
so freaking caught up in our thoughts and feelings about one thing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and oftentimes there are a lot of awesome things about said wife, whoever's partner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why we got together with them. There's probably really good things that we think about them in terms of like parenthood or life partner wise. And there probably are a lot of good things.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it comes to that point where it's like, I always try to find the reason that, like, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day about, um, like coming back once things start to go wrong in the house or go sideways,
Mm-hmm.
or the emotions aren't where we feel they should be, whether hers towards me or mine towards her.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point where we are married for a reason, right? We got to come back to that reason,
Yeah.
and try to find a way to shed all the other bullshit and come down to that common denominator
Yeah.
every time there is a major issue, and then
Yeah.
rebuild from that. So
Yeah.
it's just like a bunch of construction work. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as a finished product or a finished
Yeah.
marriage. You
Yeah. Right.
come back to this point and then you start building again.
Mm-hmm.
But you have different resources, you have different material because you're in a different stage of your life,
Yeah.
and you have kids and you got different money and you got different
That's right.
hours and things
That's
like
right.
that. So
I like it. I
yeah,
appreciate that. I appreciate that way of thinking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, buddy.
Cool.
Well, my friend, we're coming up on time. This was a great conversation. I think
I
I
think
think
so
we had a
too.
I think we had a lot that we can take away from this for another episode.
Agreed.
I think we're to the point where maybe we start trying to find some experts,
Yeah.
to bring on the podcast and talk to
Yeah.
people about what
Yeah.
their specialty is that go beyond what your specialties
Yeah,
are.
I
And
agree,
yeah,
absolutely. We should get coffee sometime.
yeah,
Let's go sit down, have a coffee, and chat about it.
yeah, 100%. Kyle,
Cool.
appreciate your time. Everybody who's listening to this, do me a favor. If you know of and like, let's get past maybe some of this. Oh, I'm a guy. These guys are talking about their emotions. They're pussies. All right. Well, whatever. You can think I'm a pussy, but, um, take this to someone, maybe take our podcast to somebody who is struggling with something, or maybe is losing what they feel their identity is, or you got a friend who's going through something in their life. Maybe pass this podcast on to them. Maybe that'll help them. Or you could go to iTunes or Spotify and leave us a review, or hit us up on our Instagram page and ask a question to us. And maybe we'll have an open conversation about
Yeah,
that. And so, um, how, like, the more we talk about it, the more possible solutions they are. They're not going to be all right and they're not going to be all wrong, but at least it's something to think about. So, go do that. Thanks for listening. And Kyle, we'll talk to you next week, man.
thanks, Dan.